Signs of the Southland for Sunday, January 26th, 2025. It's your weekly dose of Georgia Tech numbers and words. My name is Akshay Easwaran, and joining me once again from a very cloudy city of Atlanta,
hmm
Georgia, is Jack Purdy. Jack, how are you doing today?
This is a weird day. Thankfully it's a little bit warmer for once. It's just been so stupid cold all week here and been blasting the heat, but it was good to be in a very lively McCamish today. There was 4,300 of us. 4,301 was the final total. Ninth most attended game in team history. I've been at now four of the top 10. I want to say in team history, four or five of the top 10. At least no five, like the top 20. I think at this point.
Very
And
good.
yeah, two of those, of course, are the ones where they bring in like 5,000 school children. But uh, that aside,
Technicality.
technicalities, but nonetheless, it was still fun to be at a game and see Duke. There were some Duke students that actually came and did press for the game, which was really cool to see. Uh, Duke, Duke
Oh,
being it.
the face I just made when you said Duke students was Duke student. I thought Duke students had traveled for the game,
No, like
which
it was media. It was media. No, there was
okay,
no. I
okay.
could not see. I have never seen visiting students come to a Tech women's basketball game yet, but I hope to. I guess be worthy enough for the trip one day, whether or not they actually show up. But nonetheless, yeah.
Jack, I have an old story to tell you from the Jake and Akshay pre
Make
Jack
it quick
era.
because we said this was going to be a quick episode.
Yeah, we did say this was going to be a hurry up, and then we end up taking an hour anyway. Um, at the Duke Georgia Tech basketball game, I think this had to have been the winter of 2017,
hmm
like the back half of the 2016-17 season. Jake and I stood in line or I think it was just him. He was further ahead in line than me at the student entrance to get into the game. And the people in front of him were tech students wearing Duke gear.
Oh, I've heard of this story. Yeah, that's
And we can cut all this, by the way. This is just completely off topic, but it came up. I was just reminded by talking about the crowd today. But I think he told me about this, and I think both of us were so incensed that someone was using their free student ticket access to root for the other team.
it's not great. It is. That's the level. I mean, I think now we have Tech Athletics has better control of things like that, so where things would be asked of said person. I think if this happened today, but I don't know. Anyways, you want to talk about the game?
Yeah, let's talk about the game. Let's start with the Virginia game earlier this week, though. I want to because this one was interesting in a different way. This was a return of Danny Carnegie from an injury, a 29-point heater from her, and a 65 to 60 or a 75 to 62 win at Charlottesville. And this game was interesting to me. I was scoreboard watching for most of that night. I think this was what on Wednesday.
Wednesday
Um,
or Thursday? Yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday. I was scoreboard watching for most of the night, and this got as close, like 13-point final margin. Okay. But this got as close as two in that fourth quarter. And but it started out with like a 21-8 first quarter from Tech. It was just a
Mm.
very weird, like middle part of the game. And like the box score looks super weird. I don't know if you have more like want to color in the lines here. It's
Um,
just weird.
this is the first game I've actually missed in a while. I was at a show that night, and I was sort of tracking it. And Maggie Doster has our recap of that game on the website, and it. I mean, getting bringing it down to two, sure, also not great, but you create the gap. Teams are going to have runs, and creating the gap big enough to where once you get back into form during a game to where the scoreline looks like that is, I think, fine to me. I mean, that's a not that doesn't give me super cause for concern because we've been in similar boats too, where we've like when we played at Notre Dame, like we got that game to tied in that third quarter, made it kind of dicey for a half second, but then Notre Dame just ran away with it. Like
Hmm.
we are on the good team side of that story now, where it's like okay, teams are gonna maybe chase us for a half second, but we're good enough to just put them away when the time comes. So
Yeah, no, this one was weird just because of how large that lead that first quarter lead was. And then getting it down to two. To be fair, like pulling away, and especially with that 29-point Danny Carnegie performance, like we said, like is very
Career
impressive,
high.
and is and
Yeah.
it helps to have her back from injury. But as we're about to talk about in this game
Hmm.
versus Duke, there's yin and yang with some of those performances. I, Duke game, 55-50 home loss to number 14 Blue Devils. Number one, how did this game not get on ACC Network? Period. Like I love Wiley. I love Wiley Ballard, who's the play-by-play guy for this game. But like this is a top 20 matchup in like the Basketball Conference of America. Shout out Joey Weaver. Like
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their decision. I also don't know what was counter programming if like Notre Dame had a really big game or something like that that I didn't catch or something like that. But
I
nonetheless, I mean,
wasn't paying
it was still a
attention.
rigorous. Yeah, this is up. If it's like if you got you better have a better game on if it's not going to be this. Like it's I
And
don't know.
to be fair, like this game, result aside, I think for like vast stretches of this game, this was a title fight, right? Like this was
Yes, it was. This
this
was
was
an
best
absolute.
on best, best
Yeah,
on best basketball, and it was an then this is a title fight in the way that like championship soccer games usually suck, and that it was an absolute slog,
it
right?
was
A
a slugfest. It was totally
defensive
a
battle.
slugfest. It was a slugfest. This was much closer to your 20 or your 2019 Tech women's basketball instead of your 2024 25 Tech basketball. But I mean, it was the way we had to approach this game because Duke's defense was just smothering in so many ways, and we have good defense too. I mean, we only allowed 55 points to the number 14 team in the country. That's fantastic. Like that cannot be ignored in the context of this. Um, but what must be acknowledged also is that we went 1 for 20 from three. Uh, that's a whole 5%, which isn't
Well,
that isn't ideal. And Nell did say to the game that this was the best defense that she's would put Duke up there as one of the best defenses, if not the best in the country. And they did their thing. Their coach also spoke and I think played it down a little bit into how well they executed. And like it wasn't a most super complex plan. Like we know who the people know who our shooters are. Guard them. Like and
yeah,
they did really really well.
well, I think it was a little bit different. And maybe this is just me like a little bit naive, like not understanding basketball as well as other things. But the way I want to say that the tactics here defensively from Duke were a little bit different than what's worked with Tech or worked against Tech the rest of the season. I don't think that they had absurd size. They weren't absurdly long. Like, yes, they probably
No, it
on the
wasn't.
whole,
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't our normal like complaint where it's like, well, the other team was tall, and
yeah, it
that
wasn't
nailed us.
like
They were extremely good about switching. They were extremely good about ball pressure beyond the 3 point line, getting some full court pressure done. When Danny Carnegie was in the game, they made sure she barely ever had space. When she did have space, was in transition, and Danny missed all but one of her 13 shots. And like this that's where this turns also into a mix of sometimes ball just don't bounce right for you because there
yeah,
were
no, it's
some like
that.
you play this over again, we probably score 65 just with the looks that we got. And it just so many things just didn't fall from people who are very good shooters and know how to finish buckets.
Yeah, Tech. It's not that Tech wasn't going to the paint. It's not like they struggled in the paint, right?
No, we
It's
I think
that
we had the same number of points as them in the paint today.
it's just that ball just was forced to move around the arc, and that like U of death, not really a lot of ideas at the perimeter, just because
Yeah.
Duke was so good at being aggressive at the
Yep.
top of the key, and
Yep.
also and helping defenders, right? Shift, like you said, shifting from side to side and then turning singles into doubles as the ball moved around the perimeter, and they kept it at the perimeter the whole time, right?
Yeah.
They tech
And it forced us to have like our most athletic people in this game for the entire game too. Like we didn't see Inez Noguero play second. We did not see Rustigos Tonight play a second in this game. Of course, when the defense was there, Inez probably still would help, but yeah, probably marginally in a game like this. Russ it would not help in a game like this, so it makes sense that we didn't see her, even if the offense just wasn't getting what it needed to. I mean, Cara Dunn was held to a single point in the first half before the third quarter when she finally had a 10-point outburst, which massive in the context of this game. I mean, they basically said, okay, we're going to make Zoe Smith shoot. And then she hit her first six shots of the game and finished 8 of 13 and had 19 points. That had 16 points. It saved us in a lot of ways here because no one else was putting consistent buckets in.
In like a soccer sense, not to, again, I do this, I have this bit of turning everything into soccer, which I really need to stop. But like in a
We need to
soccer
get you on
sense,
baseball.
we we talked about this in our writers' room too. It's like Tech could not get the ball off of its hands. And I said feet, but it couldn't get the ball out of its hands quick enough and into those
Yeah,
high percentage areas like it likes to do. And it just didn't force enough turnovers to win in transition. And all of that being said, though, they allowed 50 only 55 points.
right.
It's a
They
ranked
like,
ACC team. It's a top, I mean, it's a top 20
yeah,
national team in the nation.
yeah,
The defensive effort was there. The Duke beat itself a little in spots, right? They made there were some
right. Which
unforced
is the same
errors,
thing we just said about ourselves. Like both teams, had very stout defenses and didn't make enough buckets, arguably when they needed to have when they had open shots to get good buckets.
but I
Um,
think the thing that really bothered me, and this comes back to your point about the 1 from 20 from three, and then Carnegie with just going 1 for 13 by herself, is that when it like this game in the fourth quarter was winnable, right? Like
yes,
just by
yes, absolutely,
point,
totally.
but by point spread alone, Tech was in this game, it was within like 6 points, 7 points the entire way,
Yep.
right? The final margin is obviously five. And it takes three, it's a winnable game if you and you are going to be able to control it defensively if you make like three buckets,
Hmm.
3 or 4 buckets. And yes, that obviously point spread, you know what I mean? And Tech just could not get the ball in the orange hoop.
I'll put it
Just
this
like,
way: I took a screenshot of this and posted it on Twitter, and I think I did it on Blue Sky too. But the at the end of the game, Tech didn't have a field goal for the final 5 minutes and 13 seconds, and Duke didn't score once in the final 4 minutes and 2 seconds of this game.
I'll
There
add to
there was
that.
there were 15 total points in the fourth quarter.
I'll add to that. I think, and I don't have this truly right, but if I'm adding together all the bits here, I think I think there was just one free throw that Tech got at some point in like the middle of the fourth quarter. But
Yeah,
other
Carradon. Yep.
than that, Tech went cold for like 8 straight minutes to end this game.
We
Like it
shot in the
was,
third quarter, 8 of 16, 50%. Solid, got it to 45-45 after winning the quarter by 4 points. We shot 2 of 19 in the fourth quarter.
yeah. At one point when the commentators talked about it, there was 2 of 15, and they didn't get another bucket to go in.
No, they
Right?
didn't. Not at all. Yeah.
It was extremely and it made that 6 point margin that turned into five by the end of it so insurmountable
Mm-hmm.
when you knew that like they've been in these kinds of positions before when and Chit Chat Wright or Caradon or Danny Carnegie has stepped into a transition three and really gotten the team going, right? But
Right.
there was no
It
space
literally never happened.
there was
Yeah.
no even so there was no space to hit a transition three. Those opportunities were really few and far between. And then at the same time, because Danny Carnegie is 1 for 13 the entire night, when she steps into a three, it kind of seemed like she was in her own head, right? And
Something like
thinking
that.
about the
Yeah.
mechanics, and it just like wasn't able to continued to be unable to get things to go. And even like later in the game, I think they had backed off the pressure because they knew backed off the pressure because they knew she was a little cooked. So
Yeah,
it's
they could
just
afford to make some to attack let her drive some, and then they were fantastic in the paint as well. With like we finishing was hard tonight. Like Tony had wasn't able to get the kind of finishing shots that she usually gets. And she only had 8 points today. I mean, Chit Chat Right had eight. She had the 1 3 Tech had all game. Cara Dunn made her 3 buckets in the third quarter, which were huge. And then Blackshear had a couple, but they were all open quick buckets. We played a 7-man rotation tonight. Um, Tiana Thompson came in for a half second after Danny. She had to come in when during a rotation where one of the starters was off and like getting rest, and Danny was just not playable for a half second, and so they threw Tiana in to just fill in a gap for a little bit there. But yeah, this was I mean, in the end, I think a lot of learnings come from this because this might be the toughest defensive effort we'll face all year, like legitimately, until maybe we run into something like this again in the ACC or NCAA tournament. Um,
I mean, you're going to see it at
but
least twice, right? Like, depend at least once in the ACC tournament because you're going to play one of these top four teams, right? Your
right, but
Louisville's, your NC
Even
States.
Notre Dame without Danny, we still were able to get around. Like we had ways to get through them. It was just eventually Notre Dame's firepower just outdid us. But I mean, yeah, this will, as I mentioned earlier, like we missed enough open shots to where if we make those at the rate we usually make those at, we're not talking about a game. We're not talking about scoring only 50 points. We're talking about 57 to 65 or something like that.
Just to wrap up this point, what was the final point total for Dunn and Carnegie combined?
Dunn finished with 10. She was our second leading scorer. Carnegie had two.
12 points, right?
Yes,
The
12 combined. Yeah.
ACC network or ACC network extra showed a graphic when they were both at a combined one and they averaged 30 together they averaged 39.9 points per game
Yeah.
and like a
That's
52 something percent field goal percentage.
to give
So
credence to Texas defense again. Ashlyn Jackson, one of Duke's best guards, 0 of 8 field goal, only made free throws.
again, like this is the thing. Like it's just the defensive performance was there. All you had to do was make like
This
three
has
buckets.
major at Virginia Tech football vibes. When
Yes. It's the same. It's the same exact thing.
yeah,
It's there. It's just
just like just anemic offensively. We even with chances and someone still doing something, but just not enough kind of thing. So yeah, I
it's
think that
important to
yeah.
note. It's important to note too. And Jack, I don't know if you saw this from your perch, but I mentioned in our writers' room. But Carnegie, I think at half or going into the second half, was working out on the bike on the sideline. So
I mean,
possible
it
that
checks
she
out. She's
started
still. I don't
feeling
think she's
something again.
maybe it
Um,
may have been also preventative because like they've got treatment plans for injury and
yeah,
that
I
kind of
mean,
thing.
there's like
So
return to play, right? So.
yeah, it's hard to tell if in my head I was wondering if she was slower than normal because she was still recovering. A hamstring stuff doesn't you don't go back to perfect immediately with an injury like that. Um,
Anything in the soft
or
tissue in the legs is, I'm not a doctor, so take this with a grain of salt, but at least, again, soccer, anything with the soft tissue in the legs is very tricky.
either that, but also to an extent, Duke was just so freaking good at containing her. Like getting
Hmm.
to top speed was not a thing. There wasn't room for her to navigate. Like it was absolutely
And
a
to
thing.
your
So
point, and to your point, she couldn't come out, right? Because she was still providing defensive value.
right, you never knew. Like she is still the most dangerous threat on the court. If she lands one, I mean, this is the. I mean, Nell repeats this all the time. Like especially last year when we had games where we'd let Russ shoot like 15 shots and she hit three of them. It's like, well, you never know when she's going to hit 8 of them. And then
You
like this
never
year
know when
she
it's going
hit
to regress,
right.
right?
You never know it's going to regress either direction, or I guess progress. But then Russ hits 7 threes in a game and ties the program record this year. So it's like stuff happens. So, anyways, I think we've put everything there is to put in this game. I'm glad we have a
Yeah,
week off. Nell is
you,
glad they have a week off.
I told you we were going to go 20 minutes on this game alone, and I think we've literally done that.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
that is fantastic. Like you said, Tech will have a week off before they play Miami next weekend. That'll be at Miami. We'll see old friend Carson Beck and the Cavenders, surely.
They have not been good this year. This is a extremely winnable game. I have lots of hope
Knock
that
on
we will
wood.
win this game.
Knock on wood. You can
I
hear
have
that in the
confidence.
background.
I have confidence.
Quick jaunt to men's basketball, excuse me, before we take a short break. Win versus Virginia Tech. I don't really have anything to say on this. Virginia Tech. I looked at their
Well,
Ken Palm and
yeah,
Torvik
we knew
rankings.
it's not
Not
good. We
great.
knew that. Yeah, we knew they were not great. Um, they shot. Where do they shoot? They shot 37%. We outshot
I
them by
think it just
10% in the
tells you
game.
like we didn't
Yeah.
really do like this. Both of us are so frustrated with this men's basketball team that I don't think we did any prep work
No, I mean,
on this
I'm looking
game.
at the box score just at least get some. I mean, Duncan Powell literally never came out of the game. He played all 40 minutes and scored 23. Fantastic. Um, we got to the free throw line. We had 26 free throws to their 10. So it just a bad team not performing well, kind of thing. Dongo scored 14. Good to see. 6 of 8 from the field. Nate George scored 11. JV McCollum scored 16 off or 16. He only played 7 guys. We played Ndongo, Suare, Powell, George McCollum, Ryan Matumbo, and Darian Sutton. And
There's
Sutton
still
came
a
in. It
couple
looks
guys
like for
out, right?
Yeah, I mean we're still completely injury riddled. Like there's guys who should be like Lance Terry didn't play. Like it's this is a don't worry about this kind of game. This is because we are at least better than the worst teams in the conference, even if we're super injury riddled.
I think they are currently at 9-11. They are Tech is Georgia Tech is 121 in the Torvik rankings and 111 in Ken Palm last time I checked. Like 30 minutes ago? 30 minutes ago.
Something like that. Okay.
VT for context, and yes, I led this with VT bad. 150 in Torvik and
Hmm.
177 in Ken Palm. So like
Well, there you go. Yeah.
not a lot of distance.
Yeah.
Um,
Not going to be competitive.
you have their next fixture pulled up?
I do. It's going to be a chaotic one because we are back to Purcell Pavilion
I
playing Notre
hate playing
Dame
Notre
on Tuesday
Dame.
night at 9 o'clock. So, will I be staying up for this game? Who knows? Uh, then we
Nine
play
o'clock.
at
The
Louis.
witching hour of ACC basketball is a 9 o'clock tip
It's
at
really
Notre
chaos
Dame.
always happens there. Then Saturday we host Louisville and McCamish at 3:45. I If not only do we host them that day, that is a CW game as well.
God, that's disgusting. I'm
Yep,
sorry. That is sicko as all get out.
it is. I don't. I gotta make a real decision if I want to go to this game or do other things. Maybe figure out where I'm going to move. I mean, it might be the best day use of my time.
All right. Well, you can think about that after the or during this short break. Back in a tick.
My continuous quest to own every piece of Section 103 gear has a long way to go. But you can work on your own quest to do the same thing by using our code FTRS for 10% off. You get free shipping for anything over $80. The baseball season's around the corner. They've got Drew Burris jerseys. You can direct. I mean, that money that is a true NIL deal. So that money goes back. Some of that money goes back to Drew Burris, and his efforts as the coming as possible ACC Player of the Year this year if the projections are holding firm. So it's going to be good. They've got the hats. There's gonna be a restock of those coming soon. So if you missed the Brent Key hat, it's coming back. You can still get it. Um, I think, and Steven, I know is doing some stuff. There's more coming in the background. This is a continuous process with Section 103. So buy their stuff. Use the code.
Welcome back to Signs of the Southland for January 26th. Let's talk tennis. Big Aussie Open weekend this weekend. We talked about Danielle Collins and her antics last weekend. But this weekend, along with the Aussie Open, it was also ITA kickoff weekend for both the men's and women's tennis teams at Georgia Tech. The men were out in Austin, Texas. They played Rice, or they up against Texas, Rice, and Arkansas. They dispatched Arkansas 4-1, and they took a 4-0 loss to Texas in
I said
the
this in our thing too. I would like to never play Texas in anything ever. I would. I don't want them. They can stay over there. Go play with your Big 12 and SEC friends. We don't need to touch you guys.
go
That
back to the Southwest Conference with the.
go back over there. Don't play us.
I think I joked about this being a Southwest Conference meetup in
Yeah,
Austin. I don't know if Rice was part of that actually. I'm gonna have to go back and check.
I don't
I
think they
don't.
were.
No, Rice is a Big 12 school, right?
Nope,
No, they're
they're
not.
AAC. They're either AAC or Conference USA or something like that.
Conferences are so dumb. Anyway, not much, not a ton to report. Winning versus Arkansas is great. Losing to the number one team in the nation in Texas, it's fine. I don't
Nothing.
not
Yeah,
not much
don't worry
to
about it.
not much to say there. Tech is back in action on Thursday. They'll host Georgia State at Ken Byers. That's a 4 p.m. first serve. That will be a
That's a big
rowdy one.
match. That's big.
State travels. All the parents get up for it. It is a great atmosphere. You can see exactly why Danielle Collins went full heel turn versus the Aussie Open crowd by going to that one. I recommend it. Let's switch over to the women's tennis ITA kickoff. They were in Malibu. They did get these games in despite all of the, LA wildfires. They assumedly beat FSU. I don't know if we have a score on that one in front of us, but then took a 4-0 loss to Arizona. Didn't get to play the host Pepperdine. So that
No,
is unfortunate.
that sucks.
It is unfortunate. Not much else to report here. again, like it's early in the season. ITAs are important, but the conference plays really the meat of the schedule for us, and obviously some of these rivalry fixtures like State and Georgia,
Yeah.
albeit the Georgia one was a bit of a frustrating burger a couple weeks ago. But for the women, the next two fixtures are Jake's favorite. Friday at
Ooh.
Illinois and then Sunday at Northwestern. Damn, we should have waited for him to record. He would have had some takes on Illinois
We
and
would have had 20
Northwestern
more minutes of
tennis.
content. It would have been nice. It
Yeah,
would have been so much more. I don't think we played Florida State at all. The schedule says we beat Memphis, and then our next match was the loss to Arizona. I think this was a one and done over there in Malibu,
maybe Florida State didn't travel.
or they
Could be.
played Pepperdine.
Maybe. I don't know how I guess I don't know how this stuff works. Swim and dive next on the slate. They had a dual meet at South Carolina in Columbia. Jack, what you got for me?
A tight one with the guys, but they got their sixth win of the year, which is awesome. The Ricky Baldacchini won two events. He won the 100 free and 100 fly. A man after my own heart. Those are my events. The women did not have they did not have a great showing, at least scoreboard wise, lost 211 and a half to 86 and a half. The guys team is the team that's going to be the focal point going forward. And a lot of these wins are really good to see, especially coming into the ACCs and stuff like that. So, especially once Jake's back, I think we're going to do some better tracking of where the times are. Jake's got the data on times and stuff like that. So we'll be curious to see like where we stack up now compared to last year and where we are on the cap and things like that. So all in all, very much looking up for the guys. Where I think they won every meet they had in front of them, at least in a dual context. So it's lovely to see. I don't know if there was diving at this, um, but either way, even if it's a close win by only 38 points, that's still good. That's still 4 or 5 races that went our way. So
I don't know last time this coaches poll was updated, but I did want to pull it up just for context. The men's team is currently 20th
yeah,
in the nation. It is at least updated this month, so take that for what
got it.
it's worth. 20th in the nation. It has to be before the last two meets because this lists 4-1 on the
Yeah.
slate.
Okay, they did lose one. Okay, got it.
Just for context, some other ACC teams in the mix. NC State is sixth, and I guess local neighbors. You're talking about Athens at 7, Louisville at 11, VT at 12, UNC at 13, UVA at 18, which is interesting. But they're one in the women's poll, so it doesn't
Yeah,
really
there will be.
matter.
Yeah, the
Needed
women's team
Arby's.
is a big deal. Yeah.
And then FSU is 21st. So keep that in mind. Tech not in the women's poll. So
Yep.
nothing to report on
Well, there you go.
that. And anything else, Jack? I don't know.
Softball
Light
practice is open
week.
practice on. Yeah, no, this is a. I mean, this is how it is. I think we wanted to do the softball preview this week, but timing was weird. So that is our goal for next weekend. Is we were going to do softball preview for the next episode once we got Jake back because that was one of our bread and butter sports for us. So we're gonna pound that out and I mean I'm excited to do some roster overview and see because this is supposedly one of the years where it's like okay we've got real talent coming in and we can make a dent and the league only got a lot harder conference wise we're gonna have to
What?
play Cal
Stanford softball? Good. Surely not, Jack. Now let me take a big
and
sip of water and look at recruiting rankings and coaches polls.
it's yep not a not they're gonna be hard it's gonna be hard but hey we knew this was going to be the case we're rising and generally in these sports where we knew Stanford was going to be a very hard team to play. We are, for the most part, rising to the occasion. Or women's basketball, where we got lucky and they are as amazing this year.
Anyway, for softball specifically, just a reminder that open practice is on the 2nd of February. That is a noon to 3 p.m. event. I encourage you to go check that out. But I think that's about it for us this week. This was a hurry up. We actually didn't go an hour this time. I'm kind of proud of us.
The NFL rules our calendar like nothing else except Georgia Tech sports, I suppose. So here we are. We're
Yeah,
gonna
we
be out of
did
here.
delay this until after women's basketball was over. So
That we
to
did.
be fair,
That
that
we
was the
did.
marquee event. So can't really
That
do
was the
anything about that.
Anyways, you can find us at fromtherumbleseat.com. You can email us at fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com if you want to reach out. I mean, literally, just if you have thoughts, email us there or come in, or go hang out in our mailbags. We got one every week. We're posting on Twitter and Blue Sky at FTRS blog. Blue Sky is so much more fun than Twitter. Please go over there. You can find Section 103 at Section 103 or section103.com. Use the code FTRS to get some cash off. We post everything to Facebook. I forgot Instagram exists. Oh well, you can find this podcast wherever you download podcasts, or on YouTube. We try to put the audio up there as well. It tends to be pretty helpful for folks. For me and Akshay, thanks for listening. Go Jack.